Hey, warmer for Levo! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peters, and now part of the VSiN family podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Ivetta Abrayman. She does great work over at bracketeer.org with our buddy Rocco Miller. She's based out there in the great state of Florida, and we have to chat with her about what we are all seeing in terms of this wild landscape in college basketball right now. All these guys are becoming eligible. Some of these guys like Donovan Dent that are going to be continuing to fight for eligibility and so much more. And then we're going to be here in the first segment recapping the news and notes that we saw in college basketball on Monday, because we did get quite a bit that came out. We've got a few guys signing with teams. We've got some more guys going into the transfer portal, and we got a little bit of an update from Judge Sweeney, who did appoint the ruling in Colorado, allowing these guys from the class of 2022 to become eligible. So lots going on there. And if you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, large CM, the name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I do beg with you, I do plead with you, please do send in these Twitter/X questions, because it helps me know what you want to hear here in the off season and helps me know exactly what you want to be able to get set for what I think is going to be the greatest college basketball season of all time. So, but if we do dive in on what we've all been seeing in college basketball recently, the clarification from Judge Sweeney is it holds everything to guys that were freshmen during the 2022-23 season. They should be able to get an extra year based on eligibility. So that leaves sort of in the dust anyone that may be redshirted during the 2021-22 season, because now with the 5-for-5 rule, they would be still unable to do so because now redshirts have been pretty much eliminated. Someone like a Donovan Dent can only right now go to UCLA because he did not enter in the transfer portal in time. Now with this, there's going to be a lot of court cases are going to be going on. I have to think that Donovan Dent, too, if he were to get a injunction or something like that, would very much love to be able to go to Gonzaga. So that's currently a little bit of a hold up there, but it is going to be interesting to see what happens with that regard. And I could be getting a little bit of this wrong, because those of us that know college basketball very, very well that are all confused as to who's eligible and who's not right now, it's just a big giant ball of wax in general. So I'm doing my best to be able to keep up with it, but right now the Donovan Dent, shall we say, ordeal, that's right now on hold. He's probably going to be suing, and there's probably going to be more that is going to be coming out within the next 48 or so hours, because the California case has yet to be able to wrap up. So we should know a little bit more about that when I come on this podcast here in the middle of the week with Donovan Dent. But these guys who were class of 2022/23, they are going to be all eligible, and we've already seen a few moves that have happened with a few of these guys. As Miami, they are a team that is getting even richer. They already signed LJ Kaysen late in the process. Now they're going to be bringing in Robert Miller III. He was over at LSU last year, averaged 6 points, 4 rebounds per game. Was he a guy that was like absolutely tearing it up and lighting the world on fire? No, but this is a good pickup for them, because for Miami, they got dealt a little bit of a bad hand as well, and we're starting to see this with a few guys, and I'm going to point this one out right now. Eric Rebe, who was supposed to be going to USC, he was sort of a nice reserve for UConn last year. 6 points, 3.5 rebounds per game. He went down with an injury, and he's going to be out for an undisclosed amount of time, so that meant that USC, they had to be sort of on the hunt, and they were able to land an international man of mystery to be able to fill that spot as of right now, as they're going to be bringing in someone from Belgium, Onyeka Joe Agu. Hopefully I got that correct. He was a 6'10", 22-year-old big man that at the Brussels BNXT League, which is actually one of the better ones out there internationally, is averaging 7.5 points, 5.5 boards, 1.2 blocks per game. So he essentially does exactly what Rebe does. So that's going to be able to help them out. And then in the case of Miami, a team that they made the signing because they needed an extra body with Marcus Allen, because he suffered a torn ACL. He is a guy that was out for pretty much all of last season due to injury himself, and now he's got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I hope that anyone listening to this podcast knows that's just exactly what you don't want to see. Like, Marcus Allen is a guy that was a former top 100 recruit over at Missouri. It looked like he was doing for a solid year last year at Miami. He played in 8 games. He was averaging 5.5 points, 3 rebounds per game. You just don't want to see this happen. You've got favorite teams. You've got least favorite teams. Teams that you want to bet on, you want to bet against. You don't want non-Hodgkin's lymphoma on anyone anyone whatsoever. So hopefully this guy gets well soon. Hopefully everything goes well, and hopefully we see him during the 2027-28 season, because you just absolutely hate to see that. So Miami was on a little bit of the rebound. Now they signed a little bit more of a big man rather than a guard, which Allen, he's a 6'7", shall we say, a little bit of a combo player. I think that that's the best way of being able to put it there, but they had to sort of be able to scramble on the fly to be able to help out with that. And then we did see Jalen Washington, who was over at Vanderbilt last season. He's staying in the state of Tennessee, but he has decided that he is going to be going to the Volunteers of Tennessee. And I know that he was saying that he was a Commodore for life, that loyalty went about as far as a paycheck. He was solid last year, 9 points, 5.5 rebounds per game. A former top 50 recruit, was on that UNC team that I think he was a part of that team that made the run to the title a few seasons ago. Maybe it was a year after, but certainly a solid big man. He was able to give Vanderbilt a little bit of a block per contest, so that's a little bit of a rough blow for the Doors, because I felt like they were really thinking that they were going to be able to pick him up, but they are going to be unable to do so. And then Malik Ewan, he last season was over at Arkansas. Solid player for Arkansas, 10 points, 5.5 rebounds at 6'10". He's able to let it fly a little bit from three. He's a career 60% three-point shooter, so yay, barely there, but he goes to Oregon. We know that Oregon has been in on the Duke Brennan sweepstakes as well. We'll see if that is still going to be coming to fruition. They really need to be able to bolster down low. He was able to give this team a block per contest as well, a former top 100 recruit, a little bit of shiftiness, part of a very up-tempo style with Arkansas. He was over at Florida State and Ole Miss prior to this as well, so we've got a lot of moves that are happening right now in college basketball, and there's more and more guys that are trying to be able to get into the NCAA transfer portal as well. We saw Chandler Jackson and Makai Mason be able to do so. For Makai Mason, he was a guy that was over at Wake Forest last year, and he was a solid player over there, 7.5 points per game. He was really able to have his, shall we say, big heyday over at Rice a few seasons ago when he was averaging 14 points per game, shot about 36.5% from three-point range. And then Chandler Jackson, he's another guy that has decided that he is going to be entering into the transfer portal. He was over at Arkansas State last season, had solid numbers for them, and began his career over at Florida State. And at Florida State 2 years ago, he was a starter for them, 6.5 points. He was averaging a pair of assists at the power conference level. Didn't shoot it well from three. Last year shot 26% from three, but for Arkansas State, 10.5 points, 4.5 assists, steal per contest. I have to think both of those guys are going to be able to get some looks. So a lot happening in college basketball right now. I'm doing my best to be able to keep it straight, and so is Ivetta Abrayman, who does such great work over at Bracketeer.org. She joins me next right here on Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beats and Family Podcast. Side edge this college basketball season? Well, VSiN experts use CBB Analytics, the most comprehensive college basketball analytics platform in the world. See injury impact, on and off data, clutch time performance metrics, first versus second half splits, and so much more. Utilize the promo code of VSiN, that is VSIN, to get $30 off and find your betting edge over at cbbanalytics.com. That is cbbanalytics, all one word.com. For anyone that is new to VSiN, well, I wish you a friendly hello. This is an attention to anyone that is new to VSiN, because you're able to get some free stuff with our daily newsletter. It's a great way to catch up on everything that's happening in the sports betting world. It's delivered straight to your inbox every single morning. VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, strategies for the day's betting menu, and so much more. Sign up for free today over at VSiN.com/newsletter. That's VSIN.com/newsletter, and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That is VSIN.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this lady, as Ivetta Abrayman is doing such great work over at Rocco Miller's website, Bracketeer.org. She's doing an incredible job out there in the great state of Florida. Taking a look at that. I know that she helps out the Atlantic Sun quite a bit. She always does her great college basketball tour of so many different stadiums throughout the year as well. And she does a great job for those that are looking for a little bit of weather advice when it comes to sports betting as well. On that front as well, you're able to follow her on the old Twitter/X at her first and last name, Ivetta Abrayman. That last name is spelled Abrayman. And Ivetta, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Hi, Greg. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Thanks for having me on. Always an honor to talk hoops with you. And yeah, what a wild offseason we've had. Normally, we're just talking roster compositions and foreign tours at this time. You know, it's kind of the quiet part of the season. And look at us now. now?
It's anything but quiet right now. Like typically in August, it's like, oh, we're in our conference previews and everything like that. And I've been trying to do as many as possible, but just what are your thoughts on what we've seen over the last week or so? Because we're seeing a lot with that Colorado injunction. I know that Judge Sweeney offered a little bit of clarity with regards to the fifth year is mainly just for the class of 2022 and nothing else. So that puts Donovan Dent in a little bit of limbo, but no doubt about it. There's a lot of unclarity right now, and I feel like even those that are most tied into the sport, like myself, like our good friend Rocco, you're able to go down the list. Everyone's wondering what the heck is going on right now.
The waters are murky, to say the least.
Murky is generous.
Murky is generous. Yeah, it's incredible. We've essentially got this class certification by Judge Sweeney. So we've got this class action lawsuit. They're guys that had no intention of going back to school. And then now they just wake up and they're like, okay, the entire class of 2022 is now eligible for a fifth year, given they played all 4 years and entered the portal, by April or whatever. So the 5-for-5 rule eliminates red shirts essentially. So they had to have finished their fourth year to get the extra year, graduate high school in 2022, and must have played all 4 years. And the portal thing is, of course, what is kind of the Achilles heel of Donovan Dent's situation, because he did not enter the portal. But, with all of these lawsuits, all these different state lawsuits going on, the circumstances are changing by the hour. So just because he did not enter the portal prior to this, as of now, he can only return to UCLA. But that should not, and I don't think will stop Gonzaga from pursuing him, because, again, I mean, this could change by tomorrow. This can change by tonight. And those eligibility rules can change. You've got the Ohio lawsuit, the Tennessee lawsuit. You've got the Colorado lawsuit. I mean, it is just like my head feels like it's going to explode, Greg. And it's not, it's only going to get worse, I'm assuming, because then you got people from the class of 2021 that I'm assuming are going to come out of the woodwork, right? Because they're kind of getting hosed because they missed out on the extra COVID eligibility, and then now the 5-for-5. So they're kind of in that gray area as well. So, I mean, what's stopping some of those guys from filing suits? I don't know. It's just crazy right now. Just a circus.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we've been seeing a lot going on with many of these guys. And if you can make sense out of it, if you're listening to this podcast, please let me know, because I don't even think that the most tied-in people to the sport can make sense of things right now. As Ivetta Abrayman, who does such great work over at bracketeer.org, is joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops. And no doubt about it, we've got some big names out there. Like, we've already seen a few guys sign with teams. The biggest one, in my opinion, was Jermichael Silva, linking up with Texas Tech a few days ago. But Keyshawn Hall, I think, is massive as well. I know you've been looking into that situation. How do you take a look at Keyshawn Hall's ordeal? Because he was so productive over at Auburn last year, and have to think that any team with money, perhaps LSU, unfortunately, might be very, very much interested in his services.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Keyshawn Hall, very talented player, as we know. Probably not an NBA guy. He's done the 4 schools in 4 years thing, but he's found his groove. 19 points, 7 rebounds. He's receiving interest. I think John Rothstein maybe tweeted that. All the schools he's receiving interest from, so Kentucky, St. John's, Indiana, Gonzaga, Kansas, SMU, LSU, Providence, and UCF. I mean, just a lot of power players there. Like you said, it just comes down to, do they have a roster spot, and do they have the money? The programs that have not done a good job building their roster in this offseason are now getting rewarded with all of these crazy indictments and legislations. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, Will Wade, has had 4 guys on his roster? And so all these guys that just, they're still like you and I are looking at them like, what are they doing? It's June, it's July, it's August now, and now they're being rewarded. Now they have this it's like the manna from heaven or whatever that's just raining down on them. And they could potentially snag some pretty competitive guys. And for some of these schools, Greg, I think it is going to make an impact. For some of them, I think it's just going to be kind of a completion piece. But for some of these schools, I think it can definitely be enough of an impact to propel them, up in the rankings and then, potentially significantly improve their team.
No question about it. Like, man, it is a case where I do think that the teams that planned very poorly are the ones that are benefiting the most. We obviously mentioned LSU. There's a few other teams out there in the SEC, like Kentucky. It came together for them late with being able to bring in a few guys at the back half of it. Milan Memiselovic, obviously being the main one, but they're still out there as well. But I do think that is so interesting to look at. And when it comes to everything that we're seeing right now, I do ultimately think the biggest beneficiaries are the teams that got out ahead of this a little bit earlier. Like, I keep coming back to Xavier with Philip Borovichinen. He was their top rebounder last year, never really left the program. He was one of those guys trying for a fifth year. They get him back. MJ Collins, he links up with with Coach Calhoun, and I think that is massive for Cincinnati as well. I'm not sure how you look at things, but I do have some concerns with some of these teams that are banking on a guy that they're going to be signing in August, might even be as late as like September and October, being able to make a big impact, whereas these teams like Cincinnati and Xavier, where you've got the chemistry, I'm hearing some rumors that perhaps that Wisconsin is going to get back Braden Carrington, who was on the roster last year. Those are the teams I think benefit the most.
Yeah, and on that note, classes start for a lot of these schools August 17th. Some of them start even earlier, some start a week later. So at the end of the day, they still have to be enrolled. They still have to go through the enrollment process. They still have to start class, as much as it seems that we have gone away from that, they are technically still need to be in class and registered at the school. So that kind of throws a wrench into the mix because some of these guys, I mean, how long is it going to take for them to get enrolled and get started? And I agree. It's absolutely insane. But the ones that have had a head start, or at least, like you said, the ones that had at least been scouting the players that they wanted are definitely, I think, going to come out on top with that roster cohesiveness because, yeah, I mean, we're just running out of time here.
There's no question about it. We are like, man, I remember back when I went to UW Oshkosh, we didn't have class start until like Labor Day. So that was very nice. So maybe you should all be going to UW Oshkosh to be able to get a few weeks extra, but don't think the NIL funds are going to quite be there for a Division III university, but you never ever know. But I mean, it is just a big giant mess in general. And there's a lot of teams that are going to be on the prowl. We've obviously highlighted LSU because, well, that LSU situation is very, very intriguing. But that said, I think that UNC is an interesting team as well because they seem to be targeting some big men. I think that they were hoping for a different answer with Henry Visar than what they got. They've been able to do a nice job in terms of revamping that backcourt. But North Carolina, it feels like ever since they hired on Coach Malone, it's been a little bit silent for them. And it feels like they're one of these teams that are lurking out there in the weeds as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And UNC is actually, because I looked up some of these first day of school dates for some of these schools, and UNC was one of the schools that starts on August 17th. So they're targeting two centers, and Micah Hangloten from Florida and Cameron Fens from South Dakota. It's going to be a really, really short turnaround time for them. Micah's from the Charlotte area, from north of Charlotte, like the Cornelius Lake Norman area. So it's a good fit there. Apparently they're using next year's NIL to compensate him because the football program is eating a lot of that budget. We'll see how that goes. If he does end up going there, that'll be interesting. I think he'd be a great fit. And then Fence has had a sizable leap this past season from 8 points per game to 14 points per game. Although he did play at a lower level, he has improved. And as you know, bigs do not grow on trees. So I think they can benefit from either of those guys. There's been some other rumors of them picking up Cade Tyson and some of these other guys that are late additions into this new pool of new blood here entering the portal. So we'll have to see, but they need something. I know Malone, I don't want to say he's on the hot seat because he just got there. But there's been some pressure based on the offseason and the portal moves and their lack of action the last few months. So I know that the pressure's on, especially from some of those donors and a lot of the fans. So they definitely, I think UNC is one of those schools that they could definitely benefit. And then there's a few others that have one or two roster spots here and there. BYU, Arkansas, there's a few that are also flirting with some of these guys. Kansas, I know there is looking.
Low-key, they could really use someone. I've been underwhelmed by Kansas this offseason.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's going to benefit these power programs that have the money that didn't do a great job at building their roster, but still have the money or can produce the money in order to snag some of these guys up late. And I think just on that note, I think it's huge what happened with Arizona. I think RJ Godfrey from Clemson was a huge pickup for them because, you and I talked about this recently. They needed a four-man since Koa Pete left for the NBA. They haven't been able to replace him. He's a good asset. He'll probably have a similar role as Awaka. He averaged 12 points, 5.3 rebounds. He shot 61% from the floor in 35 games. I think it's a great addition for Tommy Lloyd's squad because that was another team. I know they have a lot of returners, but that was another team that was kind of, I think, flying under the radar during the offseason. I mean, we knew they would be good, but we didn't know if they would be as good. So I think that this RJ Godfrey move can really propel their team to even top 5 status potentially.
Yep, and for USC, I'm wondering if they're going to get in the mix as well because they had a little bit of bad news on Monday with Eric Rebe. He underwent foot surgery, and he's going to be out for quite a bit of time now. They signed the International Man of Mystery as well. I would like to say that his last name, he was playing over there at Belgium. I'm right now springing on that, but that should be able to help them out a little bit more moving forward. But now that's a team that I think is going to be very interesting. Onyeka Joe Agu, who that was the name that I was looking for, but I think that USC is a team that's going to be a little bit of a character. Obviously, we mentioned it with LSU, Kentucky. There's a lot of teams. They're out there in the mix, and Ivetta, it's just a wild time in college basketball right now. We've got 100 billion guys trying to latch on with teams. We've got a lot of teams that have 0, 1, maybe 2 roster spots, and then LSU with a full roster available, and so much more. And I know you're doing a great job of trying to keep up with it also. Let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you, and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Ivetta Abrayman, Iveetta Abrayman. We are getting down to the wire here as we're entering August again, which is normally one of the quietest months of the off season, but that is not the case. So we will have to keep an eye on all these recent developments, legal battles, and all this stuff. So the rosters can look pretty different come September, but teams are going to be starting their practice. So we will be following along on social media. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and then follow Greg and follow the show. One of the best college basketball podcasts out there, Coast to Coast Hoops, because it's always on air and always relevant, always current, always up to date. And then also check out bracketeer.org for scheduling. All the schedules are posted, and we'll see how things develop here in the next month or two.
It's going to be so interesting because, man, we have no clarity whatsoever with regards to these rosters right now. These fifth-year guys, some of them are going to be good to go. Some of them are not going to be. We'll see how the enrollment period is going to be going. So it's a wild time in college sports, and Ivetta is doing a great job of trying to sort out something that is very difficult to sort out. So big thanks to Ivetta for joining me on Coast to Coast Hoops, now part of the VSiN family podcast. And if you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Coast to Coast Hoops, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one or two ways to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LRCM, it does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated, and then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Boy, we've got a lot going on in college basketball right now. That's why I've been a little bit slower on the conference previews here over the last few weeks, because there is a ton that is going on, so we're going to be dissecting all this. I will continue to do conference previews, probably going to do the NEC within about a week or so, and then we go into the Ohio Valley Conference and the Patriot League. Those are conferences that won't be too heavily impacted by all that we're seeing in college basketball right now, so that'll help out quite a bit. And then once we get back in season, which right now, who knows what these rosters are going to be looking like in season, picks and analysis at every single game, every single day. So appreciate you tuning in today, and I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.